Welcome to The Debate. It is Tuesday, February 10, 2026, and if you were brave enough or maybe masochistic enough to be watching NBA League Pass last night, you saw something pretty remarkable. We watched the Utah Jazz, a team that has been, meticulously stripping its roster down to the studs, basically try to hand a game to the Miami Heat. They benched their entire starting lineup for the fourth quarter. And then, the unthinkable happened. Their bench players came out, shot something like 60%, and accidentally won the game, 115-111.
It was honestly the most awkward post-game vibe I've ever seen. You could see the front office people in the tunnel just looking physically ill that they put a W in the win column. It was like watching someone try to throw a fight and accidentally knocking the other guy out cold.
Which brings us, squarely to our central conflict today. We are deep in what the media is calling tankapalooza. We have nearly a third of the league actively, and I mean aggressively, trying to lose games. So the question is this: is this strategic demolition a rational, mathematically necessary path to get generational talent, or is it an unethical blight on the sport that's basically defrauding the fans? I'm arguing for cold, hard rationality. Given the unique nature of the 2026 draft class, teams like the Jazz, Wizards, and Pacers are doing exactly what they have to do to secure a future.
And I'm taking the position that this is shameful. It's anti-competitive. It is, for all intents and purposes, a form of match fixing that is pushing away the very people who pay the bills. I mean, when you have teams hiding healthy superstars like Anthony Davis and Jaren Jackson Jr. behind some vague injury reports just to manipulate lottery odds, you are destroying the integrity of the product. This so-called logic of tanking is just a cover for incompetence.
I get the emotional reaction to bad basketball. I do. Nobody likes watching a blowout, and certainly nobody wants to see G League lineups in February. But let's just strip away the emotion for a second and look at the incentives. This isn't a normal February. The 2026 draft class is being called the best collection of talent since 2003, maybe even better. We're not talking about good starters here. We're talking about franchise pillars. In today's NBA, mediocrity is a death sentence. You either want to be holding the championship trophy or you want to be holding a top 3 lottery ticket. Being the 9th seed, fighting for a play-in spot just to get swept, that is the absolute worst place to be.
Long-term health is such a convenient phrase, isn't it? It's what GMs use to get job security while putting a garbage product on the floor. It buys them 3 years of patience while they sell, hope. You bring up the Jazz game against Miami, but look at the game against the Orlando Magic a few nights before that. That was the real smoking gun. Utah was up by 17 points. 17 in the third quarter, and then they just pulled Jaren Jackson Jr., Lauri Markkanen, and Yusuf Nurkic for the entire fourth quarter. They didn't just rest them, they iced them. They lost that game on purpose.
They prioritized asset preservation over a single meaningless win in February. What does beating the Orlando Magic do for the Utah Jazz in the grand scheme of the next decade? Nothing.
It honors the ticket holder, it respects the game. They spat in the face of competition. Even Bam Adebayo from the Heat came out and said that teams are, quote, trying to lose. When players on the other team are calling out your scheme, the jig is up. And look at the Wizards. They trade for Trae Young. They trade for Anthony Davis. These are all NBA talents. And what happens? They're sitting out with soreness that nobody believes is real. They're selling tickets on the promise of stars and delivering lineups that wouldn't win a G League championship. That is a fraud on the consumer.
I think you're conflating the consumer experience with the management strategy. Fans want a championship, right? Eventually. They don't want to watch Anthony Davis drag a bad roster to the 10th seed and just burn out his knees for nothing. But let's dig into why this is happening, because I think you are underestimating the prize. We have to talk about the big 3 prospects in this class: Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, and AJ Debinsa. These are not normal prospects.
We hear the word generational every single year. It's a marketing term used to justify losing. Victor Wembanyama was generational. Zion was generational. Is this class actually that good, or is that just the narrative we're being fed?
No, the data backs it up this time. Let's look at Cameron Boozer out of Duke. He is being described by scouts as a short roll surgeon.
Okay, for the listeners who aren't,
breaking down film all day, what does that actually mean? Why is a short roll surgeon worth tanking an entire season for?
Right, so in the modern game, the most valuable play is the pick and roll. A short roll is when the big man catches the ball in the middle of the lane, usually in a 4-on-3 situation because the defense trapped the guard. He has to make a split-second decision, shoot the floater, pass to the corner, or drive for a dunk. Boozer is processing that decision faster than anyone we've seen since, well, arguably Draymond Green, but he has the scoring efficiency of Zion Williamson. He's a genius in the post. You drop him into an offense, he immediately raises your floor because he makes the right read every single time.
Okay, so Boozer is high floor, I'll grant you that. He feels safe.
But then you have Darian Peterson at Kansas. Scouts are calling him the best pure scorer to enter the draft in a decade. We are seeing comparisons to Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, not in terms of career legacy, obviously, but in footwork, in shot creation, in the ability to get a bucket against any defense. He has that mid-range assassin gene. And then there's the unicorn, AJ Dybantsa at BYU. He's 6'9", 7-foot wingspan with the fluidity of a guard. People see a mix of Andrew Wiggins and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If you are the Jazz or the Wizards and you have a 14% shot at a player who anchors your franchise for 15 years, you take the hit for 2 months. Mathematically, one of these players increases your franchise valuation by billions.
See, and that is where I think the math ignores reality. You are treating these guys as guaranteed Hall of Famers, but the scouting reports are way more mixed than you're letting on. Take AJ Dybantsa. Yes, the physical profile is elite. He looks like he was built in a lab. But if you actually read the reports, he's described as inconsistent, turnover-prone. There are games at BYU where he's just background noise. He has nights where he goes 6 for 24.
Well, that's the nature of a high-usage freshman carrying an offense.
It's the nature of risk. And with Boozer, there are plenty of skeptics about his lack of wiggle, his elite athleticism. He's not a vertical spacer. He's playing below the rim. My point is, you are burning your entire current culture to the ground for a lottery ticket that might be a bust.
High risk, high reward. It's the only way to jump tiers in this league.
But the risk isn't just the prospect. It's your current locker room. Look at what happened in that Miami game we started with. The Jazz tried to tank, but their bench, Bryce Sensabaugh and Kyle Filipowski, played too well and won. These young guys, they're fighting for their careers. They're playing for their next contract. When you force them to play without veterans, you're not just managing assets. You're hanging them out to dry. You are teaching them that losing is acceptable. And ironically, they are proving that managing losses is harder than it looks because professional athletes are just wired to compete. You can't tell a guy like Sensabaugh to miss a shot.
I'm not convinced by the culture argument because the front offices know exactly what they're doing. The players on the court are trying to win. The front office is just removing the tools they need to do it. It's a disconnect, yeah, but it's a managed one. And we have to look at the specifics of this because it's not just about getting the number 1 pick. It's about protections. This is the part casual fans miss, and it's why the tanking is so aggressive this year.
Okay, go on. Break down the math for us.
Look at the Indiana Pacers. They are in a fascinating, terrifying position. They made this big trade for Ivica Zubac to bolster their front line. But the draft pick they sent out in a previous deal, which they actually reacquired, has protections on it. If that pick falls outside the top 4, it conveys to the Los Angeles Clippers.
So wait, if they're just bad, but not terrible, they lose the pick completely?
Exactly. If the Pacers play hard, win a few meaningless games now, and finish with the 5th or 6th worst record, they send a lottery pick to a rival and get absolutely nothing. But if they bottom out and get into that top 4, they keep a franchise-altering talent. For the Pacers GM, winning right now isn't just pointless, it is actively destructive. Benching Pascal Siakam and Zubac isn't malice, it is the only logical move to save the franchise's future. They are literally playing for their lives in their reverse standings.
Logical does not mean ethical, and it definitely doesn't mean it's good for the league. You bring up the Pacers, but let's go back to the Jazz. Coach Will Hardy was asked point blank after the game how close he was to putting the starters back in to win. And he just bluntly said, "I wasn't." That is an admission of non-competition. He is telling the world, I am not trying to win.
It's an admission of adhering to the organizational mandate. He's being honest.
It's an admission that the regular season is a farce, and it's not just them. The Brooklyn Nets are shutting down Michael Porter Jr. and Igor Demon. This isn't rebuilding. Rebuilding implies you're constructing something. This is demolition. It's match fixing in plain sight, and now there are rumors the Milwaukee Bucks might shut down Giannis. If that happens, if the face of the league is sitting out just for draft position, it is the ultimate sign the system is completely broken. You cannot have the best players in the world in street clothes because their GM is afraid of winning?
If the system encourages it, you can't blame the actors for exploiting it. That's my fundamental point. The Pacers, the Wizards, the Jazz, they are all operating within the rules to maximize their probability of success. If you hate the outcome, you have to change the rules, not shame the players or GMs. They are rational actors in a flawed system.
Then this system is an existential threat. Adam Silver has lost control. Remember the 2019 lottery reform? They flattened the odds specifically to stop this race to the bottom. They made it so the worst team only has a 14% chance of the top pick, same as the second and third worst. It was supposed to fix this.
And it clearly failed.
It failed because now teams just tank to keep protected picks or to make sure they're in that top tier. The incentive structure is just completely warped. As long as losing provides a benefit, we are going to see this. And frankly, fans are starting to tune out. Why watch a game in March if you know one team is actively trying to throw it?
I agree. The incentives are the problem, which is why we need to look at structural solutions, not moralizing. I was reading a research paper that proposed this really fascinating new framework called the Carryover Lottery Allocation, or COLA. Have you seen this?
I've read the proposal. It's definitely a radical departure from how we've done things for 40 years. It sounds complicated.
It's actually pretty elegant once you get past the name. Under the COLA system, your quality as a team is judged on playoff outcomes over multiple years, not just one season standings. But here's the brilliant part. Every single non-playoff team gets the exact same number of lottery tickets each year.
So the team with the worst record gets the same number of tickets as the team that just missed the play-in?
Exactly. There is zero benefit to losing that last game or that 60th game because your allocation is fixed once you miss the playoffs. But the twist, and this is the key, is that the tickets carry over. They accumulate. If you are bad for 5 straight years, you build up this massive mountain of tickets, virtually guaranteeing you get a top pick eventually.
And if you make the playoffs?
Your accumulated tickets get diminished. They get burned. The system rewards long-term suffering, but it removes the incentive for short-term manipulation. The Jazz wouldn't need to lose to the Heat last night because losing wouldn't improve their odds for this draft. Their odds would be based on how many years they've been out of the playoffs. It aligns the incentives. Try to win every night, and if you truly aren't good enough over a period of years, the system helps you.
Okay, I will acknowledge that COLA is interesting. It shifts the reward to long-term ineptitude instead of short-term fraud. It stops a team from pulling the plug in February just to slide down 2 spots. But let's be real, that's a theoretical paper. In reality, the league is looking at much weaker band-aids. We're hearing about proposals to lock lottery position after March 1st or, banning back-to-back top 4 picks.
Which would do nothing. If you lock positions on March 1st, teams will just start tanking in January. You just move the deadline up. It's like squeezing a balloon. The air just moves somewhere else.
Precisely. And that's my point. As long as the NBA incentivizes failure in any way, shameless teams will find a way to exploit it. The Jazz benching all-stars in the 4th quarter is a symptom, not the disease, but it is a symptom that is killing the patient. If I'm a fan buying a ticket to see Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr., and they're sitting on the bench while healthy so the team can lose, that is a broken contract with me, the consumer. You cannot sustain a business model where your best customers are treated like suckers for wanting their team to win.
It's a broken contract for one night. I'll grant you that. But let's zoom out. While the product is undeniably ugly right now, I won't pretend watching that game was high art. The Jazz, Wizards, and Pacers are acting rationally. In 5 years, if Utah is contending for a title with Jaren Jackson Jr. and Cameron Boozer running that pick and roll, absolutely no one is going to remember the 4th quarter against Orlando in February of 2026. History is written by the winners, and to win in the future, they have to lose today.
That is a dangerous gamble to make with the soul of the sport. I think we're facing an existential crisis when a third of the league 8 teams right now is actively trying to lose. The regular season becomes meaningless. It turns the competitive teams into warm-up acts. I predict this Tankapalooza is only going to get worse after the All-Star break. We have not even seen the bottom yet.
We might not have, but if that bottom yields Darren Peterson or AJ DeBounce, those franchises will tell you it was worth every single loss. The reality of the NBA is that stars drive everything. If breaking the spirit of competition for 2 months gets you the next Michael Jordan, every single GM in the league takes that deal.
And that's the tragedy of it. I think we both agree on one thing. The 2026 draft class, whether it's Boozer, Peterson, or DeBounce, has successfully broken the NBA's competitive spirit. The prize is just too big to ignore, and the fans are the ones paying the price.